Mangwanani Malelepo Vukenjani Kleklas Vanave Africa. Welcome to Africa Good Morning, the news and current affairs show bringing you everything you need to know happening on the African continent and beyond. You are joined by Ashwin Mbedi, and it is Thursday, the 30th of January. Some of the top stories that we're going to be looking at: Namibia's unemployment rate rises to 36.9%. West Africa bloc announces formal exit of 3 junta-led states. And Africa's goal to electrify 300 million homes receives an $8 billion pledge. Stay with Africa Good Morning, as we'll also be getting news stories from talent Gore in Zimbabwe. And do follow us on social media. oneup2.com is where you can stream us. Network Media Hub is where you can find us on YouTube, and DSTV 285 and GoTV 25 is also where you can view the show. This is Africa Good Morning. Top stories shortly.
Welcome to Namibia, where adventure meets tranquility. With Enjoy, you have access to a wide range of accommodations to suit every traveler's taste and budget. Experience the finest dining and hospitality Namibia has to offer. Booking your dream accommodation is just a few clicks away with Enjoy. Join thousands of happy travelers who have trusted Enjoy for their Namibian getaway. Your gateway to unforgettable Namibian adventures. Visit us today at enjoy.my.na.
In our top stories, analysts have raised concerns over the Namibia Statistics Agency's recent changes to the methodology used in its 2023 census labor force data. Now, they argue that these adjustments could undermine the compatibility of the new data with previous surveys. Namibia's unemployment rate increased from 33.4% in 2018 to 36.9% in 2023. However, the NSA's definition has changed, now excluding discouraged workers. According to the standard definition, unemployment stands at 54.8%, said Tanan Groenewald, head of data analytics and economics at Cirrus Capital. He noted that the updated unemployment figures highlight a shift in how the NSA measures unemployment. The change reflects the 2023 introduction of the combined rate of unemployment and potential labor force, which includes individuals not actively seeking employment, such as discouraged job seekers and those occupied with family or studies. Now, Groenewald noted that in 2018, the broader measure, which included discouraged workers, reported an unemployment rate of 33.4%. Under the current methodology, the 2023 unemployment rate stands at 36.9%, a stricter measure that excludes discouraged workers. Of the working age population, there are 1,875,000 individuals not part of the labor force in 2023, compared to 438,770 in 2018 who were not part of the labor force. This includes discouraged job seekers and those otherwise who do not seek employment due to studies and family responsibilities, pensioners, etc., he noted. Meanwhile, labor expert Herbert Jausch also expressed concerns regarding the methodological differences between the 2018 and 2023 surveys. Now, he emphasized the importance of consistency in defining unemployment to ensure the reliability of the data used for policy making. For comparison's sake, the methodology should remain consistent to ensure the accuracy and reliability of data which is used for policy making. Using different methodologies introduces inconsistencies which can affect the interpretation of trends and impact policy decisions. Accurate comparisons require that the same approach be applied across all datasets, Jauch said. He also noted that the discrepancies in the definition of unemployment in the 2023 and 2018 reports pose a challenge in comparing the two datasets accurately and might hurt policy makers. A very interesting story because noteworthy, the unemployment stats were not released just before the election in Namibia, which was expected by the Namibian population. And you can see why there's a lot of tumultuous discourse surrounding it. And naturally, when the experts are asking for a reliable system, one has to listen. Now, the Economic Community of West Africa States yesterday announced the formal exit of junta-led Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger from the bloc following their withdrawal last year. West Africa has been rocked by a spate of coups that has countries in the 15-member body under military rule in the past 5 years. The withdrawal of Burkina Faso, the Republic of Mali, and the Republic of Niger has become effective today, 29 January 2025, ECOWAS said in a statement. The three states announced their withdrawal from the bloc last January after ECOWAS demanded a restoration of democratic rule in Niger following a military coup in 2023. Instead, the three breakaway states formed the Alliance of Sahel States, an alternate bloc, and launched their biometric passports. ECOWAS said on Wednesday the remaining members tentatively agreed to keep ECOWAS doors open by recognizing national passports and identities bearing the bloc's logo rather, from the countries, to continue trade under existing regional agreement and to continue diplomatic cooperation with those countries. Now, moving on to our next story, it's been a recurring one, understandably so. U.S. President Donald Trump's administration issued an executive order on January 2025 freezing foreign aid for 90 days. Now, the decision sparked widespread concern among aid organizations and affected communities in needy regions since it reduced funding for critical programs that address hunger, health, and education. The move, if made permanent, and it looks like it will be, will have devastating implications, particularly for HIV/AIDS programs, as well as those working in malaria prevention, material health, and clean water access programs in regions suffering from brutal conflict. Africa has greatly benefited from the efforts of the U.S. Agency for International Development and the President's Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief. Now, let's bring it down to the ground. Namibia, which has one of the highest HIV prevalence rates in the world, also faces risks, but its health minister is hopeful that the suspension will only be temporary. U.S. support for Mozambique's health programs could severely be disrupted. Many of South Africa's HIV and TB research projects are funded by the U.S. National Institutes of Health, and it's unclear what the future holds for this funding. Uganda, a major recipient of U.S. aid, has benefited from funding in areas such as HIV and AIDS treatment, immunization, and disease control. However, the Ugandan government maintains it can operate without U.S. assistance, but questions remain about how these cuts will affect critical services broadly. Now, in Zimbabwe, where progress has been made in HIV and AIDS diagnosis and treatment, non-profit organizations are concerned about setbacks as a result of budget cuts. And Talent Gore will be joining us here on Africa Good Morning from Zimbabwe to talk more about those developments. Let's move into the loss of our top stories. The Democratic Republic of Congo's President Felix Tshisekedi will not take part in regionally brokered talks aimed at ending the rebel assault on the key eastern city of Goma, state media has reported. Kenyan leader William Ruto had invited Tshisekedi and his Rwandan counterpart Paul Kagame to a virtual summit later on Wednesday as corpses lay on the streets of Goma following heavy fighting. Neighboring Rwanda is accused of backing the M23 rebel group, which has taken over much of the city, including its airport. About 280 Romanian mercenaries who were fighting on the side of DR Congo's army had surrendered to M23, the Rwanda Defense Force said on X. Rwandan government spokeswoman Yolande Makolo told the BBC that Rwanda would take part in the summit, but did not say whether Kagame would attend. The UN says there is extensive evidence that Rwanda is backing the M23, but Rwanda denies giving the rebels direct military support. Those have been our top stories on Africa Good Morning as we keep you informed on everything that is happening. Stay with us because after the break we get the news from Zimbabwe. It's time for us to talk to our correspondent in Zimbabwe, Talent Gore. She brings us the latest news stories from there. Talent, good morning, and please get straight into your stories. I understand Zimbabwe HIV intervention gains are under threat.
Yes, Africa, good morning. So there is widespread concern in Zimbabwe's earlier successes in the fight against tuberculosis and HIV, given what Donald Trump has said in regards to funding to Africa. We have seen that Zimbabwe has gained so much through that funding from the United States of America. And right now, the Ministry of Health and Childcare itself has said that a withdrawal of funding was a wake-up call for government to increase domestic funding to save life. The Deputy Minister of Health and Childcare said that the future is now on domestic funding, and as such, there is need to revisit the budgetary allocation for the health sector. No programs will stop as we have our own way of domestically funding them. Said he has assured the nation that
It seems like we had a network disruption there with Talent Gore, but she was talking about what we had highlighted earlier, the U.S. pulling out. You remember when Donald Trump was doing all that signing, one of the things they did was pull out of many programs, including programs that assist with HIV prevention. And so it's going to be very interesting to see how countries like Zimbabwe, which are struggling economically as it is, how they're going to be able to handle this pressure of having to deal with these health situations more or less alone. Of course, there is the opportunity for regional blocs to figure out regional solutions, but we'll be keeping an eye on that. What I can tell you is that I was on social media, and former workers of NGOs, now former as of a couple of days ago, were sharing texts that they received, drop off all the aid cars, everything from the U.S. agencies. They were telling them drop off the cars, drop off the motorcycles. Their employments are terminated so immediately. So sweeping changes, and we'll be keeping an eye on it. And we're going to stay a bit on the same subject, but just moving slightly to the left. The U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID, suspended a grant agreement with a Zimbabwe-based partner as part of a re-evaluation of U.S. foreign aid under a recent executive order. Now, effective January 24, 2025, the implementing partner was instructed to halt all activities and minimize costs associated with the award during the suspension period. The directive also mandates an immediate end to all diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility-related activities under ongoing U.S. aid agreements. Like we said, sweeping changes. Now, Walter Magaya, very interesting character in Zimbabwe. So he is a self-proclaimed prophet who has made a lot of money from the gospel, quote unquote. And he was running to become the president of the Zimbabwe Football Association. Now, specific requirements were needed in order for one to be able to run for president. It was discovered that he does not have his ordinary levels, which was one of the requirements. But the only way that you can have that set aside is if you have a higher qualification, for example, a diploma. And what he ended up doing was essentially taking some pictures outside UNISA and providing some documents that say he got a diploma from UNISA. However, this is the latest update. And just so you know, he did fail to become the ZIFA president, but UNISA is knocking Walter Magaya's claim for going through tertiary education came under fresh scrutiny after it emerged that the preacher forged a University of South Africa diploma, which he submitted at the High Court last week as evidence of his academic qualifications. UNISA press officer said Magaya's name did not exist anywhere in the university's database. Kindly be advised that based on the details you provided, our system could not trace either a student number or date of birth for Mr. Magaya, read the university's response to Manyoa in a letter dated January 28, 2025. Now, the university further stated that they would be looking to take legal actions after definitively realizing that he did fake his qualifications. And of course, the hope is that he tells the truth to his congregation. This is Africa Good Morning. We'll be back with economic news.
Welcome to Namibia, where adventure meets tranquility. With Enjoy, you have access to a wide range of accommodations to suit every traveler's taste and budget. Experience the finest dining and hospitality Namibia has to offer. Booking your dream accommodation is just a few clicks away with Enjoy. Join thousands of happy travelers who have trusted Enjoy for their Namibian getaway. Your gateway to unforgettable Namibian adventures. Visit us today at enjoy.my.na.
An initiative to connect 300 million Africans to electricity in the next 6 years has won new pledges worth more than $8 billion from lenders, including the Islamic Development Bank and Asia Infrastructure Investment Bank. Now, the Mission 300 initiative, launched by the World Bank and the African Development Bank in April, is projected to cost $90 billion. Its implementation faces challenges because the economies of countries in the region are severely constrained, mainly due to sluggish revenue and high debt service costs. Our national balance sheets are insufficient to achieve Mission 300's objectives, Zambian President Hakainde Hichilema told an Africa Energy Summit in Tanzania. Funding for the project is expected to come from multilateral developmental banks, development agencies, private business, and philanthropic organizations such as the Rockefeller Foundation, which is part of the initiative. Now, Mohammed Al-Yasser, chairman of the Islamic Development Bank, said in a statement released during the summit that ended on Tuesday that the Jeddah headquartered bank was committed $2.65 billion in project financing and another $2 billion to ensure power projects in Africa. Now, Beijing-based AIIB is set to provide $1 to $1.5 billion in financing. If I could dig into a little bit of political analysis and economic analysis with the viewers, this makes one wonder how the global race is going to continue, because we can clearly see the US pulling out, whilst other global superpowers are figuring out a way to enter Africa. So one wonders how much Trump's America First policy is going to serve America globally, because as we know, the natural resources don't naturally flow from that side as well as they do from here. We'll be keeping an eye on that. Now, moving on, a recent report recently revealed that Nigerian telecom companies are suffering notable financial losses, with forecasts indicating a startling $11.3 billion in revenue losses between 2022 and 2026. Now, this is a result of a delay in the tariff hikes, which has persisted for 11 years. The main culprit for the record losses in the country's constantly dwindling currency value, alongside long-term regulatory inaction by the Nigerian Communications Commission. This information was detailed in a report by the country's premier telecommunications company, MTN, as seen on Tech Kabab. MTN Nigeria CEO Carl Toriola and Airtel Nigeria CEO Dinesh Basing, alongside other major players in the industry, have noted that the delay in tariff hikes had brought the telecom sector to the verge of collapse. Those have been our economic news stories. After the break, we swing into some sport. We start off in the world of tennis. tennis, where world number 6 Novak Djokovic has pulled out of Serbia's Davis Cup first round qualifying tie due to injury. The country's tennis federation said now Djokovic, who was set to represent Serbia in their January 31 to February 2 meeting with Denmark in Copenhagen, retired due to a hamstring injury in his Australian Open semi-final match against Alexander Zverev last week. The 24-time Grand Slam champion was booed by the crowd at Melbourne Park, and he responded by posting a photo of an MRI taken off his left hamstring with the caption, "Thought I'd leave this here for all the sport injury experts out there." I think we're learning in the sport world that a little empathy for these professional athletes can go a long way. Now we swing over to some exciting rugby news. Sydney will host the 2027 Rugby World Cup final, 24 years after England upset the Wallabies at the Harbour City Stadium, Australia in the 2003 decider. I was in grade 7. I will never forget Johnny Wilkinson's kick. Now World Rugby confirmed Stadium Australia, the 82,000-seat venue, which hosted the 2000 Olympics athletics and opening and closing ceremonies, is slated to host the 2027 final and both semi-finals. Sydney will also stage the bronze medal match, 2 quarterfinals, 2 round of 16 matches, and 5 pool matches as the big winner among Australia's bidding cities. Exciting times indeed. Last night, UEFA Champions League, the first phase came to an end, and my goodness, were there goals to be had. Barcelona 2-2 against Atalanta. Bayern Munich getting the best of S Bratislava 3-1. Brest coming down 0 to Real Madrid's 3. Arsenal beating Girona FC 2-1. Looking at some of the other main results, Juventus losing 2-0 to Benfica. Leverkusen with a 2-0 win against Sparta Praha. PSV getting the best of Liverpool. However, Liverpool was on top of the table already. They had qualified last week, so a game that Liverpool did not need to take seriously. Manchester City needing to win their game against Club Brugge to make it to the next knockout phase, and they did so with a 3-1 win. Let's have a look at how the qualifiers look. So at the top, you can see the qualifiers. Liverpool FC, Inter Milan, Arsenal, Barcelona, Aston Villa, recognizable teams. Expected? Well, not really, because it was a different format, which means the teams at the bottom half, bottom half is accurate. All those teams are still in the knockout phase. They're not yet fully through to the next group stage. So PSG, Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, Manchester City, Juventus still have to get it done for another knockout phase. But for clubs like Liverpool FC, the job is done. This has been Africa Good Morning. Let's have a look at the highlights from this morning's broadcast before we call it a day. NSA 2023 unemployment determination methodology change is questioned, and this is in Namibia. NSA standing for Namibia Statistics Agency. West Africa bloc announces formal exit of 3 junta-led states. And plan to get electricity to more Africans wins $8 billion in new pledges. DSTV 285, GoTV 25, oneup2.com, and Network Media Hub is precisely where you can find us. Network Media Hub being on YouTube. From me, Ashwin Berry, and the Africa Good Morning team, Swera Jakanaka.